Okay.
Keith, I can see your ceiling. There you
All
go.
right.
Well, you're the first one here.
All right. I tried calling everybody.
Well, now they're starting to filter in.
Yeah. I'm guessing we'll have maybe about 10 roughly 10 folks total, you think, Travis?
Yeah, maybe a dozen
Okay.
based on the names I recognized and, the phone numbers, I was flipping through them if I recognize any phone numbers.
Okay. Yeah.
There's a couple participants that I know that were in the plenary that aren't here yet.
Got it. Yep. We'll give it a few minutes.
Hopefully everybody, they saw the message to switch over and they realized they had to hit the button to
Click
go.
join. Yeah.
Looked like there were 6 or 7 more.
Okay.
Hey, Travis and Kirsten, make sure Mike gets in this room. He's been trying to get in.
Okay.
Thanks.
Wayne, do you know his, I think we have 2 people that just listed Mike. Do you know if he's the uppercase Mike or the lowercase Mike?
I think it was lowercase. He had his video on, but he doesn't
did
know. He was trying to raise his hand and he was asking the person that was with him to help him out.
Okay.
He wants to get in here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, there he is. Is that him?
Oh, no camera.
Award. Want to give it like one more minute and we'll just get started?
Yeah, and we're going to start with introductions, so I think that's okay to get started without everybody here. Yeah. Well, I'll start. I'll introduce myself again. My name's Kirsten Ramey, so I'm the Environmental Program Manager.
Commercial Trawl Fishery.
Now there you are. Just say hi. See if they can hear you.
He said something to me.
Mike, we'll call on you in a little bit.
Hi, Mike. We're going to go through introductions, so just give us a second. So Kirsten Ramey, I'm the Environmental Program Manager for the department's Marine Region. My program is the State Managed Finfish and Nearshore Ecosystem Program. So halibut is one of our species that we manage within my program, and I'm going to turn it over to Travis, who's one of our staff. Let him introduce.
Travis Tanaka. I work out of the Monterey office, monitor halibut for the Monterey Bay area, but also travel down to Port
You're
San
going
Luis.
around the room now to people. Are they going around and talking to people?
They're saying who the biologists are, each one.
Yeah, Mike, we can hear you. Or it gets in a little bit. So yeah, I also go to Port San Luis. I've been to look at halibut. I've been working on halibut since 2008. So we'll just keep going. So fishing vessel Natalie Nicole, Natalie Nicole, please. You can go ahead and unmute.
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm part of the commercial sector here in San Francisco, affiliated with the dragger Linda Noel.
Okay. Keith, Leonelda. You're on mute, Keith.
Trying to figure out how to unmute. My name is Keith Andrews. I have the fishing vessel Leonilda, based out of Port San Luis. Been dragging for halibut since about 1999.
Hey, Mike McCorkle.
Yes, Mike McCorkle here.
And
Mike
where,
McCorkle here.
and where are you based out of, Mike?
Santa Barbara.
Santa Barbara.
And I've been fishing for halibut for 40 years, over 40 years, for all gear types, actually. But mostly trawl in the last 25, 30 years of trawl fishery.
Okay. Carrie?
Thank you. Good afternoon, folks. Carrie Pomeroy, UC Santa Cruz. I'm actually a researcher, but I've done work on the commercial halibut fishery. It's been a while, and I appreciate the opportunity to sit in. Thank you.
All right. We got Zip. I think that's Mike Mitchell.
Yes, fishing vessel Linda Noel. I've been fishing for halibut over 40 years, gillnet and trawl. The last, 30 years or so, trawl fishery, before that, gillnet.
All right. Moving on, Wayne.
Hi, Wayne with CCA Cal.
All right. Thank you. Gary Burke.
Commercial trawler out of Santa Barbara.
Good. Thank you. Kyle.
Kyle Pemberton with the fishing vessel Mariah Lee, fishing out of Half Moon Bay. Troll.
Thank you. And then we got another Mike, lowercase.
Yeah, hi, Mike Perry from San Francisco, also a trawl permit holder.
Okay. Bill.
Yeah, Bill Ward, fishing vessel Dancing Bear, Port San Luis.
Thank you. Jeff. All right, we'll come back to Jeff. Craig, you can introduce yourself to the group.
Yeah, hi, Craig Schumann, CDFW Marine Region.
All right, thank you. Then we got 831-3808 is the last four digits.
I won't support the audio.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, introduce yourself, please.
Hello?
Yep.
Yeah, it's Jerry Novichka. I'm a fishing vessel San Giovanni, Monterey. Bottom troll for the last 20-something years.
Okay. Then we have last four digits, 1039.
Yeah, Richard Riso, fishing vessel Turn. Then gillnet before halibut trawl.
Right. Thanks, Rick. And then 0022, last four digits.
That's Jeff Epps, no. But if he doesn't answer.
All right. So that's everybody.
Okay. I'm going to share my screen for those of you who are on the computer. And we will be going through, hold on a second. Here we are. We will be going through 4 questions today. So I'll let Travis take the lead on facilitating, and I'm here to support.
Okay. So let me bring up the questions here. Where are you? All right, so we're going to talk sustainability on the first question. So based on the definition within the Marine Life Management Act, what does sustainability mean to you? And this is based on your experience. Is California halibut a sustainable fishery? So who wants to go first? You can go ahead and raise your hand there and call on you.
Mike Mitchell.
Okay, Mike.
I think halibut fishery, the trawl is sustainable right now, the way it is right now, how many boats are fishing it right now, how it's being fished right now. But that can change in the future. But right now, as we speak, it's sustainable.
Okay.
As long as things stay the way they are. And, but like I said, the way things are going with more people getting into the fishery, the effort is, it might be shifting for more and more people getting into it, harder fishing. And with that, it might be a little bit more harder on the halibut, but you don't know. I just know with other fisheries, when you get a lot more boats, bigger boats get into the fishery, that happens. But right now, it's sustainable. If the department can keep it the way it is right now. That's the problem.
Just a point of clarification, Mike, or when you say boats getting in, are you talking like all gears, all sectors, including recreational? So just like more participants?
Well, obviously, there's been a lot more recreational and hook and line fisheries getting in the fishery. That all goes into all of it.
Let's get Grandma a break. Come on. Come on. Come here.
So, but anyway, right now, it is sustainable.
Okay. Let's see. I think Jerry, you had your hand up there, 3808.
Yeah. Hey, Travis.
Hey.
Yeah. Well, in order to describe if something is sustainable, we have to look at the current level and also historical level. So if you look at the levels of fishing that has been happening up and down the coast or on an individual areas, like San Francisco obviously has a lot less boats than they were in the past. And you look historically how much fish is being caught there, it's very sustainable. You look Monterey Bay, we're not fishing at all, right? And you look at the last 100 years of landings and catches and number of boats, obviously we're sustainable because, and even if we bring fish to fishing level to where it was prior to the closure in 2005, then it was sustainable because the level never reached any pressure, any pressure on the fish stocks. I mean, you're looking at the 100-year-old fishery here. So I think it's very important. Santa Barbara, same thing. So every area needs to be looked individually, but overall stocks after 100 years of fishing, commercial fishing and recreational fishing, I mean, that needs to be considered into, what the levels were, are, and will be. When Mike said, a lot more boats, a lot more guys are coming to fish in hook and line, might need to be in the consideration, but overall, the stocks of the fish are perfectly fine because we would see it declining. It's every year is pretty much the same thing. Some years are stronger than others, and so I kind of the question of sustainability is very subjective to this because how are you going to judge it? So who's asking a question and who's answering it? So that's the main thing, and who's going to be the final arbiter what's going to be described as sustainable. I mean, that's the main thing that what concerns me. You know, I can guarantee you that every fisherman that's here says it's sustainable because we can make a living if we have regulations off our back, even at this level where it is. Let us make a living. But, you know, you're going to talk to Oceana and they're going to tell you it's unsustainable. So who's going to be the arbiter? Is the department going to look at the overall picture? That's what I would like to see, some kind of a, what is the actual, because you can never get the real definition. That's what puzzles me, this kind of questions, you know. Anyway.
Well, under the MLMA, there is a definition of sustainability. The question is does that definition fit the halibut fishery? So that's why we're asking you guys, what do you see as sustainable?
I understand, but is the question in a master plan, does it ask right now, or does it take this whole picture and you know, does it look holistically on it, or does it specifically try to be surgical, and eventually it's going to pick up, well, some of these fisheries are sustainable, some aren't. You know, that's what I worry about. You know, there might be a definition, but it's not a clear definition. You know what I mean? Anyway.
All right, Jerry. Gary?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't read the definition of the Marine Life Management Act. Maybe that's what we should have done. But to me, the fishery, any fishery is sustainable if you're able to make money, economics. You find fishermen, if they don't catch the fish, they're out of that business and move on. So we're kind of self-perpetual. I mean, you can't lose money. So this fishery's been going on 100 years, and there's guys still getting in it, and they're making money. So to me, just be real quick here, I think it's very sustainable.
Okay. All right, so let's move on to the next question, and then we can circle back too if something pops up and you're thinking about this. So next question, how, if at all, is bycatch a concern for the California halibut fishery? And keep in mind, we wanted the focus to be within this gear, because they're going to have the same question in hook and line, the same question in the gill net, and then the fourth room as well. All right, Jerry, had your hand up again?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm hogging the microphone. So again, it's another couple of things. Bycatch, I don't see bycatch level in any higher levels at all. Any, I don't see any bycatch level that's threatening anything in our fishery. You know, if there's any bycatch level, and as you know, when we fishing without observers, federal or state, or doing studies, we throw the fish back live, whether they're subs or whether there's another species or whatever. If it's observed trip, then the fish stays on the deck for 10, 15, 20 minutes, and the fish gets observed and recorded dead. So the data from observed fisheries, as it's trawl and gillnet mostly, is skewed by this fact. Me as a fisherman who uses a federal permit or used federal permit, I had no bycatch. And most of my fish is not, to me, it's not a bycatch. I understand the definition of the state fishery as a halibut fishery, so it defines specifically anything else besides halibut. But to me, when you mentioned earlier that the bycatch is the subs and whatever else that's required in there, to me, those levels are minimal and non-threatening to the ecosystem and to those species at all. I don't know if that's enough for me.
Anybody else? Any hands up?
Mike?
Mike, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think a bycatch is a problem with their trawl fishery. I've been dragging a long time, a lot longer than these halibut live. And we have good years, bad years, and we always catch the same about bycatch, and it hasn't hurt the fishery. And so if it would have hurt the fishery, I think we would have known that over the years with the landings. So with small halibut especially, most of the small halibut were in San Francisco Bay. A lot of that below the Bay Bridge. And there's a lot of effort on those halibut, and a lot of small halibut are caught, much more than we catch. So we catch minimum compared to other fisheries there. And the landings prove that we still catch a good amount of halibut. So other bycatches, a lot of it's returned alive. So that's another thing. And we, with the observer coverage we have every year, that I would say that more or less proves it, that we don't have a big bycatch problem. So I don't see that even being an issue.
Okay. Let's see. We got phone number 1039. Last 4 digits.
Yeah, this is Richard Riso again, Fish and Vessel Turn. Somebody mentioned about the sublegal fish being, when we return them, when we do not have an observer on the boat, everything is within minutes, 5 minutes, everything is cleared a lot. Probably 95% alive unless a sea lion's torn a head off. When we have an observer aboard, I've been arguing this for the last 10, 15 years. They want to measure every sublegal halibut, which is going to be dead. And that's when I start having problems with the observers. I've been, saying it for years now.
Okay, thank you. That's a very good point. Anybody else?
Yeah, Travis, this is Bill Ward. Can you hear me?
Bill.
Yeah, I've never been able to get a hand-raising deal going on this thing. It's not on just this one either. But I've been doing this since 1971, and I remember what the tows used to look like in 1971, and a lot of them, a 3-hour tow would take a double block to get it aboard. We're not seeing that anymore. We've done a lot of work as far as shortening tows, getting better gear. I know a guy that has a 7.5-inch sack tied off behind his cod end, and he dumps the cod end into the 7.5-inch sack before he pulls it aboard, and he says he sees the little fish just going right on out of it like that. The little fish are a concern for us, and for me especially. I worry about what happens with them, and when I see the party boat reports from Western Outdoor News when they're throwing back 100 shakers a day. Then I go on YouTube and they show you how to catch a halibut with a rod and reel. Oh, look, the rod tip is wiggling. We got to let him go for a couple of minutes here, make sure the treble hook's down in his guts, and then they pull up and show you the 17-inch halibut, stuff like that. And it drives me nuts too, but I'm concerned with the small fish. That's the fishery. We're up to our butts in halibut right now. Everybody knows that. But it comes and goes. In my lifetime, it's not going to go away, but it will in some people. And we need to preserve that as much as we can. I'm done.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? All right. I said if something comes in mind, we can circle back to that. All right. So next question. How, if at all, are changing ocean conditions, and just for a number, in the last 20 years impacting the California halibut fishery? All right. So If anybody said has a comment on that, we can circle back to it. Fourth question. So based on your understanding of the California halibut fishery, do you have recommendations related to the sustainability of the resource, bycatch habitat, climate change, and or social economics? So Jerry and Rick, your hands are still up. Is that still from before, or do you have a comment on this one?
No, it's from now. I mean, I can kind of probably touch both. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, socioeconomic, here in Monterey, we've been devastated from the halibut point of view. So definitely socioeconomic, we've been impacted and basically wiped out. So I would like to see changes, and I would like to recommend to make it easier, because I still don't understand the process of reopening these grounds over here. So that would be one thing. And opening even more grounds, because it will allow the fisheries to spread out into more places. I mean, it would be, how many fishermen is there in our fishery? How many fishermen is there? How many boats is there they can go to? If I would have to go fishing now, I have to go to San Francisco. So I have to join the group of San Francisco guys, and where the perfectly good grounds are right here. So, that will help the fishery if my effort spreads on more places than on one concentrated. So if there's 5 guys in Santa Barbara and a couple of them want to go to Monterey, I have no problem with that. It would help Santa Barbara grounds, and we probably all know that if the fish are being harvested, it promotes the growth of the stock. So it will also help the stocks over here. I firmly believe that. So I'm not concerned about the climate change or anything like that. For the last 20 years, I haven't seen any changes. And, I see seasonal changes from one season to another, which is normal. Some years are warmer than the others, but I'm not concerned about that. My main concern is about the socioeconomic and our community here being completely wiped out from the fishery here. So that's my point there.
All right. Natalie, Nicole.
Hey, Travis, is there any way to blow up the screenshot a little bit more so we could read it?
Let's see. Kirsten?
That looks better already. That definitely worked.
Do we want more? How's that? That's I think probably the max.
On the view that you have on your computer too.
Yeah, that's perfect. Thanks, Travis.
All right. Anybody else with a comment on this particular topic? So we have, actually, according to the agenda, we still have probably about like another 10 to 15 minutes of time before we go back with the main group. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to discuss, or a comment that you potentially might have that you want to present to us now, or revisit one of the questions?
I do have a question.
Okay. Mike?
Yeah. Now I know you said before in the big meeting about you don't have any plans of managing these resources as far as the different fisheries, but you must have some idea on what you're going to do, or what you plan to do, or what you can do. Could you tell us, the trawl fishery, we don't have there's not a lot of boats, not like recreational, not like hook and line, and there's a lot less of us. So could you tell us what you plan to do to us, if anything? You must have some sort of suggestions or something that, maybe you could tell us.
Oh, I am unmuted.
I was going to say Kirsten or Craig. Honestly, Mike, we have not considered any specific management changes for the trawl sector at this time. We have heard some feedback from stakeholders, folks like Travis that are out in the field doing the sampling. They hear feedback from stakeholders on changes that they would like to see, specific regulatory changes. But at this point, the department has not made any recommendations, and we're going through this scaled management process. And part of this process is outreach to stakeholders to get feedback on what your concerns are and whether or not there needs to be any specific management changes. I think we've all talked about Bycatch, and we're still working through that evaluation process of Bycatch. We've heard some concerns from the recreational sector already from a webinar a couple weeks ago. So all of that information will be incorporated into a decision making on whether or not the halibut fishery as a whole needs any changes and whether or not there are any specific sectors that need changes. But at this point, we have not put anything on or off the table.
The reason I say that is I said I've been fishing a long time, and more often than not, fishing wildlife or fishing game, wait until there could be a problem with the fishery, then they go in and just throw a lot of rules and regulations when it's too late. And they come up with way, way harsh restrictions than they needed to do to begin with. And that's a problem with halibut, crab, salmon. They wait too long, and then, like I said, the sustainability. Getting back to that, I don't know what you're going to wait for or go by. You should have something to start with there anyway. An average over all these years that we fished halibut, and you have a lot of records. And I said the other spot there that halibut fishing, lots got to do with how many boats are fishing halibut. The more boats that fish halibut, the more landings there are. Now, if it was a normal salmon season or other boats were doing salmon or other fisheries, you wouldn't have nearly the landings you have now. All of us would still be fishing, but there would be a lot less landings because there's a lot less boats fishing. So that's where that sustainability is a very tricky deal. On how and that's what worries me about the department, how they interpret things. So if less boats are fishing halibut and the landings drop, you say, oh my God, there's a problem with the halibut. Well, there probably is no problem with the halibut. There's just that less boats are fishing. I can only catch so much, and the other boats too. I mean, we can't make up for 2 or 3 boats not fishing. See, you understand? So it's not just total landings. It's more than that.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, one of the things that within our group, and Christine Lucena, it's your contact up in the Bay Area, but we keep track of not just the landings, but also the factors that go into what happened last month, why the fishery is doing what it's doing. So because we have to be able to look at set of numbers, let's say 20 years from now, and go, well, what happened? If you just look at the numbers as is, you can make inferences. Probably could be wrong, but we do keep within our own project, we keep notes on what's going on with the fishery, market orders, is there some weather event? COVID's a great example, how that affected the fishery. So at least for ourselves, we keep track of those other factors so we can interpret those landings. Gary, you got your hand up? And it looks like we got 5 minutes, so we're
just on that same thing. I'm with you. Down here in Santa Barbara, one of our guys that fished, 12 months a year for him. It's the last 2 years, best he's ever seen. But because of COVID and imports, he can only go twice a week. And so they can't even sell them. They don't want our markets. They didn't want them. And the price, what they did, they paid nothing for them. So, I mean, like you said, you got to keep track of that stuff, because if the only thing you got for stock assessments is logbooks and poundage, it doesn't tell the whole story by any means. So, and I'm glad to see that you're paying attention. But down here, this last couple of years, there's halibut everywhere. And the same thing goes with the sport count. If bluefin and stuff are around, half those boats aren't fishing bottom fishing rockfish. They're going out after that. There's so many variables. So that's all I got to say. Thanks.
All right, we got a couple more minutes left. Any final comments?
That was me. Yeah, I had a question. Am I still on?
Yeah, you're on. Go for it.
Yeah. One thing about in continuation, I was going to ask you the same thing like Mike. What specific, you mentioned that other stakeholders are proposing things, so that would be one thing. What are the proposed things, even though the department is not putting anything on the table, but can you mention any of the proposed things from other stakeholders who might see concerns? So there'll be one thing. And another thing, again, I'm going to be selfish and ask about the Monterey Bay. Earlier in the webinar, when they're talking about how the process since 2018, when they were put on the halibut ground list here at the Monterey, what is the actual process of determining, because you guys mentioned that the observer, bycatch studies, and something else was going to determine if these grounds remain closed, although open. So what will, if there's no fishery, how are you going to determine if this ground can be reopened? How can it be fulfilled, the needs for these grounds to reopen? So there'll be two questions there. So the one was in continuation to Mike, are there any proposed from other stakeholders, any changes to the management and what they are? And then this one, if you can answer, I would really appreciate it.
Well, Jerry, regarding what other stakeholders have, because when I'm down at the docks, I'll get guys that'll go, hey, I think you should do this. And it's always to the other guy. And we say, okay, so I put that under my hat. So we've had a long ongoing list of, suggestions, if you will. But in terms of action, because anybody can suggest a regulation change or propose and go to the commission with that, and which we have not had. But like I said, we've been keeping kind of an informal list of things. But like Kirsten said, we're not entertaining.
But are there any actual like a push that's almost official? Because if it makes into the list of other stakeholders on the meeting like this, it tells me that there are some stronger suggestions that are being looked at. That's what it kind of tells me. Anyway, is there anything like that that's in the cloud?
None that I have seen.
Currently, there's not.
Okay, so we got 110 seconds, so I'll try to wrap up your second question here. The short answer is that the commission, it's up to the commission to take action on that, because the trawl grounds were made in legislation. But it's still up to the commission to take action on those two areas. Okay, and like Kirsten said in our presentation, there's a series and having to meet those. But there's that upcoming MRC meeting that you guys are encouraged to log into and attend.
On the 10th?
This would be a third year since it's been signed. Is there going to be something happening now that it's up for its 3-year review? Is there a chance that we're going to be able to possibly even start taking observers for scientific tows on the inside in these newly supposed to be opened areas?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'd say that the first thing we would do is evaluate the existing trawl grounds, because those have not been evaluated in many years. And if those showed to have acceptable levels of bycatch and minimal habitat impacts as they did before, then if it's prioritized by the commission, then it would probably be a good next step to go exploring what that might look like in the area off of Monterey that were allowed to be open. I think there's a bit of a misperception there. Just because the legislature put that in didn't mean it was going to happen. And we made that very clear with the fleet when that language was being drafted, that it allowed the department and the commission to explore it. Doesn't mean it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Bycatch.